kind of risky.
It's a shot in the dark.
It's a shot in the dark. What happened? Oh, do you like? Okay, well, I'm dancing.
Right, like it's a shot in the dark. If I ally with the Batman who laughs, he will.
It's a shot in the dark, but you know, it's a maybe.
I'm gonna vote dark green. It's a shot in the dark. We gotta try.
I'm gonna go for Peta.
I don't know, but hey, it's a shot in the dark. Figured it couldn't hurt to.
Not like it's a shot in the dark. You see what these people can do before.
It's a shot in the dark, but let's do it. I replaced it with a bigger one.
Yeah, it's a shot in the dark. You're shooting it, and like, you know,
Dude, it's a shot in the dark, but
Here's the thing.
you know, sometimes it's a shot in the dark, man.
It's a shot in the dark every jump, dude.
Both ways, it's a shot in the dark. It's basically spinning a wheel.
Again, it's a shot in the dark. It's a +7 dog in a championship game.
It's a shot in the dark. Es un tiro al aire.
Before, but again, it's a shot in the dark, and we don't know in which direction or.
Because medicine is not a science. It's a shot in the dark.
No, it's a shot in the dark. But maybe if we watch some of these channels, Mitchell, we.
It's a shot in the dark, but I mean the man.
I mean, it's a shot in the dark, but we'll just scan this area really quick.
Wise. It's a shot in the dark, but at least we have a chance of surviving.
I know it's a shot in the dark, but we need all we can get, boys. At this point.
It's a shot in the dark, dude. It's gonna be a brawl for the NFC West this year.
So it's a shot in the dark. You know what I mean? If Pacquiao's slipping or if he
Hi, I know it's a shot in the dark. Do you have any appointments tonight? I want to live. I know it's a shot in the dark, but it's my last choice.
Give me your best shot, although it's a shot in the dark.
It's a shot in the dark. Anthropods, alright, I have to use the...
It's a shot in the dark. But Jack Frost could potentially get 5 hits.
Oh, it's a shot in the dark.
He's in a much better place and a much happier place.
When she was in school, it's a shot in the dark. You never know. It's a shot in the dark. And so this pair I found.
Yeah, because it's a shot in the dark. It's like the superfecta in horse racing.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a shot in the dark. All these people shooting dice.
I want to live. I know it's a shot in the dark, but it's my last choice.
It's a shot in the dark, but at least this way we know where we're going, right?
I don't want to put it that way, but you know, it's a shot in the dark. It is. This one's it's a shot in the dark.
It's a shot in the dark. They're almost like shooting dice.
Mrs. Reed, I know it's a shot in the dark, but why haven't you been?
You're joking. It's a shot in the dark. Like
Shot in the dark? Okay, it's a guess.
Sounds good to me.
It's a shot in the dark. Yeah, let's go with it. Final answer.
This transplant. I want to live. I know it's a shot in the dark, but it's my last choice.
It's a shot in the dark. I was over here. What? Oh my God.
Everything XQC, I know it's a shot in the dark, but can I get a welcome to
What do you want? Yeah, I knew it's a shot in the dark. Still early.
It's a shot in the dark, but we live in a new day and age, new media, and Nintendo.
On Xbox, it's a shot in the dark as to whether or not you get back in.
It's a shot in the dark.
Is it your right or my right? That type of weight. So it's a shot in the dark, and it seems like his team.
Again, it's a shot in the dark, but you have a lot of cheat companies basically posting.
It's a shot in the dark because there's a lot of great players out there, as we.
For one, it's a shot in the dark. A dinosaur hunt.
it's a shot in the dark.
But I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
It's a shot in the dark. Just a piss.
Yeah. It's a shot in the dark. Now, I do want to talk about one more thing. Upon doing the
Or obscure character edition. I know it's a shot in the dark, but do you think Leon
medieval? It's a shot in the dark. We made a fan-made chapter idea, a very long
thing. It's a shot in the dark. It's different. It's, I don't want to say.
You know, it's a shot in the dark when you're doing that buying from Japan.
See if you can get it. It's a shot in the dark, man. You got a Pokemon stream ask.
I just couldn't do it, so it was a shot in the dark.
All right.
Alright, let's see. It's a shot in the dark. Hopefully I'm as good as...
Right now, it's a shot in the dark. It's such a new company that there's not much to go.
It's just a kind of it's a shot in the dark. We're going to take a guess. None of the...
They have the influence.
True.
It's a shot in the dark when you get any kind of...
The rich lady's right. It's a shot in the dark at best.
Simply put, and I know it's a shot in the dark, but I'm asking. They call you.
Either way, it's a shot in the dark. No, here's one other thing I will say.
My paralyzed body into the darkness. It's a shot in the dark, but I'm hoping that...
It's not a problem.
It's not a big deal.
Little program, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, it was interesting that they...
Not a big deal, I know. But it looked quite old and rusty.
It's not a big deal for,
Vosh, you're prioritizing being right.
No or no big deal?
Not a big deal at all. Not a big deal. A little service. You know what I'm saying?
It's not a big deal. I'm playing Trundle. So, yeah. In the town to feed me, not a big deal. I have...
Not a big deal. I'd sleep easy. I'd be at peace if my career was over.
Really, that's not a big deal. They're like, if you want to wear the creeper hoodie, I don't really...
Level 1, not a big deal though. Still has 3 bars on deck.
If they're here for fun, it's not a big deal.
Yep.
And I see you got my golf club there.
Not a big deal because this is a .8 cap for the shot.
I came down to Finn hitting a rose. Everything was roses, but it's really not a big deal because I did say it.
I have level 2 dive, but it's not a big deal.
Crying or that's not a big deal, or do it this way, or you know, like
a big deal.
His left leg's back in the run. It's not.
Oh, and if we watch in the trench,
hands out in the sun and acts like it's not a big deal, like when he shook hands.
And you're like, oh, it's not a big deal because he just wanted to look at it.
Vampire, that's not a big deal. That's not that good of a game. The other teams will.
No one cares.
Not a big deal at all.
It's an even number. How about that tomorrow?
It'll be
like that. That's not a big deal anymore.
Or most of your workouts.
It's not a big deal, though.
The most important
Oh, wow, your tech is...
Yeah. Oh, no.
See a trophy this season, only preseason, not a big deal, but it goes to United.
Get the hell dead. I mean, it's fine. Not a big deal. Not a small deal necessarily. Ostrich.
Championships, not a big deal. Thanks so much for joining us.
No top coach, but it's not a big deal. I think it's just fun to see what he's...
it's not a big deal.
Talk about it. It's not a big deal.
One of my most famous interviews, right, was with Lil.
It's not a big deal. I get this 100%. Wait, what the hell is this?
And the NFL players, it's not a big deal now. I mean, they've seen Hard Knocks.
Not a big deal. Just go with the flow, right?
New York Yankees, not a big deal. Okay. Not worried about doing that against
the swap here. Not a big deal for him on the outlaw road, though. I think it's unlikely.
Considered my work wife. Not a big deal.
Truly abrasive said this is going on too long.
It's not a big deal for me.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
You'll just be missing this all.
It's not a big deal or whatever, but sometimes I get noticed.
Not a big deal, but it's been about 3 months, and a lot can happen.
Like, not a big deal, right? Might be the case. So definitely have those codes in your head.
2-minute stream delay, and it's not a big deal. People freaked the fuck.
It worked out.
Like, it's not a big deal at all from that standpoint.
It's not a big deal to him. He's like, extra prize money.
It's not a big deal.
But again, I think the most dangerous thing was paying.
Oh.
Yeah, so I guess it's not a big deal. Rip.
Okay.
And I checked. I'm a
Turn line, just hose clamped it, not a big deal.
in the game. Later on, not a big deal, but right now it can be kind of irritating. So try not to.
Please get to it, though. It's really not a big deal.
Not a big deal. But this is why we continue to harp on these duos, right? There's just so...
Seriously, it's not a big deal. Like, you're in kindergarten. Like,
it's not a big deal. It feels like a big deal at the moment because that's the way.
You take a shower. It's not a big deal. All right.
Not a big deal. More of a footnote in the fight for the Outlaws as they break.
Not a big deal.
Fought the God of War. It doesn't matter.
I feel in high school that's not a big deal.
No, yeah, that never happens.
You know, it's not a big deal. But in the last 250 years, and especially in the era...
So like click to move's not a big deal. I'm good with click to move. I would just...
Streets. It's really not a big deal.
Okay, so that's pretty much irrelevant.
They're trying to...
Oh, who cares? That was not a big deal. Anyways, Jason.
Make our way over to subnets. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. And this whole thing is just
on the women. And it's fine. It's not a big deal, right? I mean, it's what they.
It's called empowerment.
Don't worry about it. You know, it's not a big deal right now. Later on, I'll tell you.
It's not a big deal, hopefully, although I can't imagine hydraulic oil.
Look, this is really not a big deal. We just knock off a payday loan place.
Mitch just got mad at himself, said, fuck, Mitch, not a big deal. Not a big deal at all.
Starmie, not a big deal. I just have to heal here.
Did Weezing just use
No, it's not a big deal. Like, I'll heal. It's
I don't have a lot of expense, so it's not a big deal, but wow. I was not expecting...
Deal less damage, so that's not a big deal. And that fight is not that hard.
I mean, it's not a big deal that this road is closed, I guess. But we have this one here.
Maybe not a big deal. Maybe that's the sticker we don't bother handing out, but...
I've dated before. It's not a big deal to me. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it is...
I've not seen that comic, so it's not a big deal.
I don't think that's acceptable, just the...
Not a big deal, so just go check it out. If you're ready to get started in...
YouTube chat. Not a big deal.
If this is not a big deal to you, why are you signal boosting this? And it just...
I thought we were
Why do you
settled
care
on
about
this,
this
and it's not a big deal.
Because, and I don't want to eat shoots up at the end. Like, this is not a big deal. And they were like, yeah, no.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. They're slowing things down.
It's not a big deal. Like, it was such a good backhanded. It was very well hit.
Whoa, no, I wanted to.
So it's not a big deal.
But again, it was like I said, it's all about.
But it's not a big deal. But that is just a little bit of a micro thing he could.
Oh, okay. So basically, this is not a big deal in the NBA. No. Okay.
Structurally, it's not a big deal. It's only about is white in time because
you can just illegally stream it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, it is. It's not a big deal, but it's unethical.
My most liked one ever. Now I know it's not a big deal, but for me, it's kind of crazy.
But it's not a big deal to me. I can go without it. Right. Cool. But if you know going
intersection, so it's not a big deal. We'll get to that. Some kind of auxiliary service.
Those situations were not a big deal, apparently. Huh. Oh, also Nick Fury finds out
of using something to flow. Then it's not a big deal. I've heard that you just.
It's not a big deal. If you were doing like world record attempts.
Not a big deal.
Yep. It's the task one that has to be found and raid. Sucks. We'll go up on the left side over here.
Mute. No, it's not a big deal. It's really not I was just, yeah.
Damage while I was doing it. Not a big deal. I say not a big deal because
This is not a big deal. This is totally normal. This is the way the.
Probably not a big deal, but for heroes like Legion Commander Jungle level 1.
The show without him, it's really not a big deal.
Are you sure that you can just.
Construct, if it's not a big deal, then you ought to be comfortable sharing it.
Get into a kill throw, so not a big deal of a change, but it will help in scenarios.
Not a big deal, but he does show exactly where he is. As you mentioned, not only
it's not a big deal, but obviously if you do that, you end up playing on Gavutu or
it's not a big deal to have Lamborghini. You know, they see they see people taking pictures next to
who's not a big deal and who will never get talked about and who should get.
It's good. It's
not
really good.
a big deal.
So the only time I really drink whiskey.
Oh well, not a big deal.
Yeah, fuck it.
Oh, I forgot it's for like the targeting.
That's not a big deal. Like, number one, that's not a big fucking deal at all.
Bench. It's it was not a big deal, and then all of a sudden it was like
It's not really difficult.
It's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science. It's rocket engineering.
Yeah, your channel's gonna grow. It's not rocket science. So
It's not rocket science in no way, shape, or form. People want to know
because it's not rocket science. So I'm going to kind of guess here.
I figured this out yet, but it's not rocket science. But open borders equals more crime.
money off that, guys. It's not rocket science. You can do that for the whole gamut.
Rocket science.
It's not rocket science.
It's a rocket science.
What someone said that.
That it's not rocket science and that they need to compensate her for the
happening.
Yeah.
Like, it's not rocket science. Like, you can do it if you even care a little. Interpret.
Well, Shady, it's not rocket science. It's probably super easy.
It's not rocket science.
it's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science, but this is something that becomes significantly more.
It's not rocket science. 99% of you guys are not mods, okay?
It's not rocket science, folks. I mean, I know it sounds like science.
I'm like, yeah, it's not rocket science here. We're not doing
those exploits. It's not rocket science. And even if it's a 1% increase, you bet.
It's not rocket science. I mean, you probably already heard this before. But
Best selection. It's not rocket science here. You're probably gonna
State because your insulin is down. It's not rocket science, guys. It's not rocket.
it's not rocket science.
What do you think about the phrase, it's not rocket science? And he's like, well,
That's all it is. It's not rocket science.
It's primary guy.
It's not rocket science. I'm not reinventing anything. These are just good.
Anything.
It's not rocket science, guys.
It's not rocket science.
What it is, which is basic bank management. It's not rocket science to manage interest rate.
Great relationship fundamentals. It's not rocket science, but it is a science.
Yeah.
I guess it's not rocket science.
Obvious. It's not rocket science. But we don't do it.
All that space, all that, it's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science. You go to see it and I cut you off a CFA. It's not rocket.
A healthy donor and instructions, and it's not rocket science. Like you can.
The thing is, it's not rocket science, but sometimes it feels like it's a joke.
Have fun. Like, it's not rocket science. I think you're just missing.
Jack, it's not rocket science. During that mystery hand. Well, turns out
It's not rocket science. It's either you're going to take a bath.
About it, like how it's put together. It's not rocket science. Believe me, Starship is
Friday night.
Well, good luck on Friday night. Respect. I'll see you there.
And it's not rocket science. It's glyphosate, which is the act.
It's not rocket science, but it is a physics question.
Reason why it's not rocket science has become a common idiom, because rocket science
Wells Audi drove up in.
It's not rocket science that he did it. The evidence.
It's not rocket science.
I figured this out yet, but it's not rocket science. But open borders equals more crime.
The thinking, it's not rocket science, but we just don't.
This morning, it's not rocket science, but buddy, it sure is good. It was a huge hit.
Similar followings. Again, you know, it's not rocket science.
But it's not common.
It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science.
I figured this out yet, but it's not rocket science. But open borders equals more crime.
It's not rocket science. If you're going to leave their best player...
Look, it's not rocket science. It's not even toilet science. Here's everything...
You can continue all the way up. It's not rocket science, folks. Let's nail it in.
Just wherever it makes sense. It's not rocket science. 1 or 2 rerolls per item.